Episode 18. 18. Ha! I didn't think we'd get this far. So honestly, Joe, congratulations for making episode 18. We are all decked out today and ready to go with my boy, Joe Simonovich. Joe, your craft gear hat is way cooler than mine, except for the fact that the thing that I had to check before we got on, I'm wearing my colors today, bro. 7-1. The pack is back without Devontae, without Marquez, without Scantling, without Alan Lazard. The pack is back. I'm fully decked out. My boy, Joe Simonovich here today. Joe, welcome to Homage, my friend. How are you?
Darren, excited to be here. I love the energy you bring all the time, and I am not surprised they made it to 18 because I can see way more of this going on in the future because you just bring that energy and bring the passion to everything. So why not bring it to Homage, which you have been.
I appreciate that. It is definitely turned into a labor of love. The fact that someone like yourself, who has sort of a wide array of understanding the marketplace and media and how things are done, for you to say that, I appreciate it. Before we get started today, very, very special announcement here. So I have two special little glasses here. And as you can see, we're all decked out. I got my craft gear shirt on. I got my craft gear hat on. So I have my snifter here. I wasn't going to drink beer this early because I do have to coach tonight, but I have my pint glass and my snifter full of vitamin water. Kids, guess what? Me and Joe, we talked. Craft Gear, which is one of the raddest brands ever, is going to be sponsoring Homage from here on out. So, Joe, first of all, thank you for actually giving a crap enough to have something that you created to be on here for the audience. But we'll get into Craft Gear a little bit more later in the show because I want the audience to know about it, not only what you're doing and your passion that you bring for it, but what you're doing with a lot of breweries here in New Jersey that you're helping. I also have my craft gear, my three amigos over here. So that was the announcement. Super pumped about it. Thank you, first and foremost, for allowing me to actually put something cool on Homage, because usually the coolness is just the people that I speak to. So Joe, let's start off with this, with all that energy. So thank you for Craft Gear. What I want to know first is, Joe and I have had we've had a crazy last few years together, but even before that, we were working together for, God, like the last 8 years probably. Joe, during COVID, became a part of the group that we have as well. 6 buddies just get together once a month to talk about life and work beyond, work. It's about our families and things like that. What makes Joe tick? What's next for Joe? We want to know.
So, COVID's been a strange time, as you know a little better than anybody, because I talk to you a little more than I do to a lot of people. But COVID's been an interesting time, as it's been for everyone. Being that when it hit, I was part of the food and beverage industry, mostly in Manhattan, and it just went away overnight. Yep. So, when you get thrown a curveball like that, it's time to sit back and kind of take a look at things and figure out. And, Craft Gear was something that's always been there. Launched that in 2013, but looked at other things, because the first thing that came to me when COVID hit was, how do I help people? How do I help? And not in the way of a first responder or anything like that, because that's not what my background is, but from a marketing, from an operational strategy perspective, from all of those things that I've kind of worked on over the years, how could I use them to help people out there that could use it right now? And got a chance during COVID to work with some local businesses, some restaurants, things like that. And now it's kind of, okay, what is next? And honestly, I'm trying to figure that out right now. I've been talking to a couple of great companies to see if maybe there's a landing spot back in the corporate world, or what does it look like? And I think, that's something that's going to be figured out over the next couple of weeks.
Do you think it's a great point about what you said, how lending your experience, and for all the listeners that are out there, one of the reasons why Joe and I, from the first time we spoke, that we kind of hit it off, was a passion about leadership, a passion about helping, a passion about caring for others. Joe and I have had many conversations over the years about what it means to be a leader, why we do things, doing things the right way, making sure that it's not all about dollars and cents, that there's an empathetic approach to things that go beyond, just doing business, so to speak, which is what I love about you. I mean, honestly, you're one of the people that, no, really, like, I know you just had a giggle, but like, when I think of the start of our relationship, we were both at different parts of our lives. You're talking about a decade probably now that, I mean, we're getting older.
Oh, dude, I remember the first day that you walked into my office. You asked me if, I was doing some basic online marketing and starting up a company called Shopee.com. You had met someone at my company through a networking event, walked into the office, and the first thing you said to me is like something like, hey bro, you got to come up, check out the office. I got a brand new keg of Sammy Summer Ale on tap. Come up and have a drink. Yeah. And I was like I don't know this guy, but you know what? It sounds cool. And I think that's kind of, just the easiness of the relationship, and the start of it being like that kind of leads to the fact that, those conversations that you're talking about having about leadership and those things, they don't come unless you're comfortable being vulnerable with the person you're talking to.
Yep.
And it just leads to a much bigger thing than it started with, okay, come up, check out the place. And it just leads to all of these much bigger things. And I think, but it all starts with that idea of, being comfortable and being able to be vulnerable in yourself and in your style. And I think that's what, I think that's why our relationship has grown over these years, because I think both of us, even though we started at different places, like kind of came together on those similar things, and it really allowed us to kind of grow together in those areas.
Yeah, I say this to my kids all the time. It's awesome that you just said that, because I tell this to my kids all the time, that when you're speaking to somebody, I like to call it transactional. Like, don't be transactional. There's always, it's funny because Samantha and I are very different people, my wife. And, when we're like at an airport, I'll just be like, hey, like I'll strike up a comment, and she'll be like, why are you talking with that person? You never know what you're going to learn, and you never know where that conversation will go. And you never know, at the most rubber meets the road level, you never know where somebody is at. And if you meet them there, you never know what could come out of it. And one of the beautiful things about Joe is the fact that when you speak with him, although he's knowledgeable on music, on fashion, on sports, even though, like I said, coming onto this call, that Mets thing behind you, that damn Mets thing behind you, Joe, I don't know how I can feel about that, but I still love you, pal. I still love you.
I didn't get a chance to frame the Mike White jersey and put it up on the wall yet for, yesterday's chess performance. So after he gets the jacket for the Hall of Fame, then I'll get that up on the wall too. But
See, being that like this, all right, so I love this. So you want to go down the Jets rabbit hole now. So now you're going to frame the Mike White. Now you drafted your quarterback second, right? You got your guy, and now Mike White's the savior of the New York Jets. Why I don't get why like next year after Aaron Rodgers wins the Super Bowl this year, just go out and trade for him. You could trade all the assets you have. You know, we've got a quarterback sitting and waiting. That's going to take us to the, we're going to have 45 years of like basically like a half a century of great quarterbacking.
And just get Brett Favre 2.0.
There you go. They can trade for another Green Bay Packer quarter. Well, it was actually after the.
Yeah, it was a little bit.
No.
No, he went to the Vikings afterwards.
Yeah. So, but with regards to sort of what's next and craft gear, like what spurred you to create this? Like, what was the passion behind it? And why the brand, obviously, like Joe was funny because I don't realize I wear all of these hats like all the time on all these interviews. And I just kind of put them on because my hair is always a mess. But then I realized that and I'm like, yeah, I do. So what spurred craft gear? What, your passion for beer? Was it the fashion part of it? Like, why?
So, kind of the long tail version of where craft gear came from started back 2011, 2012. My wife and I were visiting a brewery out in Easton, Pennsylvania. And it was like a Saturday morning, whatever, taking a tour of the brewery. And this guy had on a shirt and it was like kind of like it today you would think he made it himself. It was a hop cone with bones underneath it. And I was like, that's a cool shirt. I went up to him, where'd you get the shirt from? Oh, this website, I ordered it here. They have great stuff. You have to check them out. So I went home, of course, ordered a shirt and actually there were 2 different shirts from there. Got them in the mail and they were awful. They were terrible. They were like everything that you would expect to get if you were buying shirts for your softball team back in 2005. That kind of starchy, hard cotton with an imprint on it that was about a 1/4 inch thick and sat off the shirt, and kind of the shirt didn't bend with it. And it was like, oh, wow. I said to Jen, I was like, we could do something better. We could do something better than this. We have to do it. So I had a graphic designer on my team at that time, a young kid, but he was always looking for extra work. And I said, hey, Matt, I have this idea in my head. Can you create it for me? And we went back and forth for a couple weeks and just, we couldn't get on the same page with, his idea was very intricate, very design heavy, very, he's now a professional comic book artist. So, that could give you an idea of where he was. And I just wanted this very black and white, stand out, punch you in the face type logo. So I had a friend that I had worked with on some coffee labels and a coffee brand about a year before. And she was very well-established designer. She did work with Wolfgang Puck. She does all of, or probably about 90% of the Kirkland brand logos that are in Costco. So any of the design that goes with the Kirkland packages, she's responsible for that. So I reached out to her. I was like, Michelle, I need a favor. I have this idea, I just need somebody that can put it on paper for me. You and I have worked well in the past. You think you can help me out? She came back with 2 designs. One of them was exactly the one that you see on the hat, you see up here with no edits whatsoever. And then another one, we went with this one, and it was originally the company that we originally formed was called HopSpot Holdings. And it was going to be, it was going to be on shirts. It was always meant to be on apparel and things like that, but it was meant to be a website for brewers to sell one-off beers in the way that like a Woot.com used to work, where it was a time sale. There were only so many, you can only get in, when they're gone, and they're never coming back. And that was kind of the idea behind it. and nobody else was doing anything like that at the time, especially with alcohol. So in the state of New Jersey, where we both are, there's a lot of hoops to jump through with the ABC, and we started jumping through those hoops to this place where we had warehouse space, we had insurance on that warehouse space, we had all of the things in place for to launch this great idea. And the Alcohol Beverage Commission kind of pulled the rug out from under us at the last minute after about a year and a half of going through all of these things, taking out ads in papers in case people have objections and all these different steps that we had to go through. So now we had this cool logo, an idea, and a company that could go absolutely nowhere. And I was out for a run one morning, and the name craft gear just popped in my head. And at this time, it's around 2012, went home, plugged it in GoDaddy because that was the only way to find out if a domain exists. And it didn't. So that's craft gear was born from that, and then turned into the snifter glasses were the original item. And the way that we launched them was with I want to call it one of the really original influencer marketing campaigns. And it was totally, all it cost was I sent out a hat, a t-shirt, and 2 snifters to what were the top 15 posters on Instagram for the craft beer industry. So anybody, if you were tagging your post craft gear, you were getting a lot of likes. I reached out, I asked for your address and asked if I could send you something. And 14 of the 15 people started posting with our stuff, started sharing it, started really liking the product, and it grew from there. And, we sold a lot of those snifter glasses. And the problem with glassware is it's not easy to ship. But, the t-shirts and the hats and everything like that started kind of offsetting the cost of shipping the glasses. So it's been able to work up to this point as something that's kind of cool. It is a passion project. It's definitely not a business for us, but it's something that we love, and we're always looking for that opportunity to turn it into a business. And if it comes, great. If not, okay. It's something that I'm never going to have any less love for, because I just think I love the beer industry, the craft beer industry, especially. And I love the brewers, got to know so many great people through this. And it's a great community. And I'm always kind of drawn to those industries where there is a great community, and it runs across coffee, it runs across food and beverage, and it runs across all the things that I always have my arms around and have my hands in, are always kind of those industries that have a great community. And I think that's really what I'm drawn to at the end of the day.
And for a quick debrief here, the one influencer that didn't respond got eaten by an alligator. No, just kidding. But honestly, that passion, one of the reasons why I'm having you on today, and one of the reasons why I love speaking with you, is that passion you bring. And it's not always like, it's not this passion that's kind of like unbridled in a bad way. You have a focus that very few people, and it's not always like, well, Joe had, look, the last 2 years, everybody's been through a lot. Joe's been through a lot too. And it's a testament to who you are to be able to carry that passion, to do the things that you're doing, to build that community. I think that's important. It's actually a big part of what, I guess, really what we've been focusing on with that, with that group of dudes that we, talk once a month. Only a few of us have actually met. I mean, I know you, I personally have met you, but, reconnecting with Casey and meeting Trent for the first time, and like, not even, I mean, I've never even met, none of us have ever even met Vic, and he's in another, he's in Canada, and he's, a big part of all of our lives. But building that community, I think, is one of the biggest things that has kind of come out of the last few years. And one of the reasons why that passion is so important for what you do, for what you have done, what you continue to do, and what you want to bring to the table. With regards to kind of like the building of that community and how you see it moving forward, whether it's for, you know, craft gear or you know, whatever comes next for Joe, like one of Joe's main, one of Joe is old school rap. Like Joe is the wizard of old school rap. Like a lot of the posts you have on Instagram and things like that, that I love. You bring me back, dude. You just bring me back to like a much simpler time in my life. With regards to the industry and what's next for you, where do you see it? Because the world coming out of this is evolved. I mean, it is going to evolve. And I think part of your journey has been that evolutionary process too. So where do you kind of see it going? What's next? What can we expect? Like, I'd love your thoughts on it, because you were like really tapped into that world of like the office space, and like, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, that's why it's, you know, it's interesting. These conversations revolving around workplace have been the ones that that I've had the most of in the last 18 months, you know, 18 going on 19 months now. It's because it's everybody wants to figure out what is next. And it's been, you know, the way that in those first 6 months, everybody that I spoke to wanted to know, you know, okay, what does it look like when this is over? And the biggest thing that I tried to drive home, and that, you know, where I was always coming from, is we have to evolve with it as it goes. You can't, if you sit here and if you think back to, you know, March of 2020, when everything hit, we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, and we thought it was going to be 2 months, and then it was, oh, it's all going to be over by the summertime. So if you were, instead of working with the current circumstances that you're in, if you were always planning for that, when does it go back to normal? That hit you hard. That hit you really hard, because struggling for what that normal is still something that we're doing. And it's kind of the companies that are winning right now are the ones that are able to be fluid and pivot quickly and move towards that next thing. You know, in the industry the world that I came from, the micro market industry, which is unattended retail as a bigger picture, you know, how many places do you go now where you're checking out and you're not even interacting with a person? You know, even Costco now, Quick Check, any of those places, at least half the time you're checking yourself out. And it's just, that world is now moving into smaller spaces, you know, it's not going, in a couple of years from now, or now within the next 12 to 24 months, you're going to see those types of things where it feels like a full-blown retail store in the lobby of your apartment or in your office, where, you know, before it was kind of this, there was always this line of, okay, I don't know if I want to cross it. I don't know if the people who work for me are going to pay for it. Are they going to steal? Are they going to understand how to work the software? Like, all of these questions just kind of got sped up big time when COVID hit. And the same thing with the restaurant industry. You know, I live in Denville, New Jersey, so northern New Jersey. It's not like the middle of nowhere. We had probably 3 restaurants at the onset of COVID that made deliveries outside of, you know, using your Uber Eats and DoorDash. And actually, when COVID started, DoorDash was pretty much the only one here. And you just saw that go into hyperdrive, where every restaurant now had an online ordering component and pick up at the curb. Do I want to come in and pick it up, or you deliver it? Like, all the options are there, and the consumer is put in control. But that's now the mindset that we have. Like, it's not even saying what it's going to be like when it comes back to normal. Like, that's the mindset that we're in right now. And that's what companies have to adapt to. You know, the problem that offices are trying to solve is how do I engage the hybrid employee? Because I think we got very comfortable in knowing how to build a culture around having everybody in the office every day, and there were companies that were very good at it. And now when it's kind of people trickling in here, people trickling in there, and then your staff that has moved out to the Midwest and they're never going to be in the office besides the 2 times a year for holiday parties, but they're still a big part of your team. How do we keep everybody engaged? And I think the company that can figure that out, there's a piece there to figure it out. And I think there's a lot of options, but if somebody can figure that out, they're going to be that next big company in that space, because it's just kind of that mindset of, it's when you and I have worked together in the past, the biggest thing that we've always had from a working relationship was that flexibility. I always loved working with your team because first off, they always got invested and always understood where I was coming from. It was like they worked at the company. Whoever was on my team, it was basically like they worked with me. And it's having people that understand, having everybody on the same page and being able to keep pulling in the same direction towards a goal that keeps changing is tough. And that's when you have a team, because that's what it is. That's what it is right now, is that goal is there, but it's going to move over here and over here and over here.
It's a moving target. It's absolutely a moving target.
And if everybody is still if 50% of your people are still pulling towards the original goal and complaining because the goal changed and that one's over here, like it's not going to work. So it's so much more important than ever to have a strong culture, and it's harder than ever to make that a reality. So there's things out there that need to be solved in this current environment, and somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to come up with that formula that works, that kind of fills that need between office employee, hybrid employee, in person working at home, and gives them an experience that really wins. And I'm excited. I am talking to companies that are trying to do that right now. There are companies out there that are trying to do it, and I do think one of them is going to make it happen. It's just who hits that correctly.
Yeah, I it's interesting because I was talking to somebody last week about this great resignation thing, and their company is bigger than mine. It was a friend of mine. Their company is bigger than mine, and they were kind of like, what do you think? And you see the blood start draining out of their head. And I was like, honestly, how is it different from how anything ever was? I mean, people came into jobs, they left jobs. If you're not an owner of a company, you'll never be as fully invested as somebody who, is an entrepreneur, is a founder, is an owner. That's just the way it is. So getting yourself all crazy over oh my gosh, the great resignation. Dude, people left jobs before. They're still going to leave jobs. I think it exacerbates your problem if you have a awful culture, or people are just not going to gravitate towards that. But in the whole scheme of life and how we do things, I'll never forget it. Well, ending this part of the conversation first, though, with my buddy, I was like, I don't think you should get all crazy about it, because people are going to leave if you've built that, if you've knitted that culture to a point where people feel cared for and their voice is being heard, and they have, from the top down, if you're saying to somebody, best idea wins, you better live that. You better live it, and you better really understand it and follow through with it, because that's what's going to keep the great resignation from happening. The great resignation is happening from companies with a shitty culture. That's what's going on. That's the great resignation. If you, and I get that there are other factors involved, like money and, the ability to work hybrid or to work from home or whatever it may be. Different things push people's buttons in different ways. But that being said, I will 100% stand behind that if you're building a culture in a way that is true to its core value, which is, are you building a place that people want to be at? You come from a world, all the snacks and beverages and fancy machinery, that's all well and good. But if if the owner of a business or the company is not treating you well, all that stuff doesn't matter. It's like a great marketing message. You could have the greatest marketing message ever. If you don't figure out how to amplify it in the right way, is the only thing I can do to compare at this point to what you're saying. Like, nobody's going to hear it. It'll be like a tree falling in the forest. So, I don't know. To me, the great resignation and like the hybrid and finding that culture, like, it's got to be built from the foundation and built up. And on top of that, it's got to be built up, but it's also got to be built down. And that's where I think, to your point, that happy medium of like, okay, somebody's going to hit on it. Yeah, somebody's going to hit on that culture and like things are changing. But if you treat people properly and you treat people with respect, they might not stay at your company forever because, they might get paid $50,000 more someplace else, but they'll leave as a friend of the company, understanding that you were able to provide them something that a lot of other companies can. And
yeah, it's funny. It's because, when I hear the great resignation, like when I got down to it, when you had to sit back and look at what your team looks like, the one thing I always tried to do is, listen, I never wanted anybody who was just coming in for a paycheck like that. Mm-hmm. And I did everything in my power to not make that a thing. But at the end of the day, and especially I came from a world where it was but a mix of blue collar, white collar, gray collar. Like, it was all across the spectrum of people working there, because we had delivery drivers, we had warehouse employees, we had, marketing people and VP of sales, and they were everybody was there working in the same building. And you just kind of had all of these different personalities. Mm-hmm. But you always tried to, I always tried to have a relationship with people where I understood who was there for a paycheck and who loved being there. And the goal was always to, every so often be able to push one of those people that were there for a paycheck over to the other side of the scale, because you always wanted to keep the scale tipped in that direction of, these people are here because they love being here, or, something deeper ties them to the purpose, whether it is the core values, the culture, whatever it comes down to, there's some piece that they like coming here. So I always looked at it in that way and tried to keep the scale tipped in that direction. Yep. With having as many people that love being there, that love being a part of something, because when people are always going to show up for a paycheck, but when people want to show up for something bigger, like, they're excited to be there, like that. And that type of thing is something that, like you said, it comes from the bottom up, but the belief has to be there from the top down. Like, if it's not if you're not believing in it at the top, it can all fall apart. But, in the same way, it can't come from the top. It can't be a directive. These things can't be directives. They can't be shouted down from the rooftops. They have to be organic. They have to be grown up, but they have to be supported by everyone throughout the organization. So I think that it's a fine balance, and now it's more difficult than ever, and that scale could be a good way to look at when you're talking about things like the great resignation. If your scale starts tipping in that wrong direction, where you start seeing people that are just there for the paycheck, you can bet that you're going to feel that a little more than the next company down the road.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I would just want to say to your point about that illustration of like the root system has to grow from the bottom up and also from the top down. If you're the top down guy and you're not living it like true to your core, people will see through that.
Oh,
Like you can't fake that. You cannot, you absolutely, I will, if I'm leaving you, the audience, with nothing else, I'm looking at you, audience, everybody, you cannot fake it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
People see through that. Like people can see bullshit from a mile away. Like that's what it comes down to. I mean, and every person, whether they're coming there for a paycheck or they love being there, if you're selling them a line of bullshit, they're going to see through it. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what their purpose is. People see through it. People are, you have to give people the credit they deserve.
Yep. One of the, going back in time, I know we're talking a lot about going back in time, but one of the things very early on during my interactions when we first started working together that really made me a Joe fan was the fact that honesty, like I don't have, I enjoy talking with people that like, it's no BS. Like I remember times early on when it was, you know, a little bit of a rough go at the beginning, getting, you know, onboarding is always a rough go. You were like, this is what we got to do, dude. Like, and we got to get it done like quick. It's got to be done quick. So like, I'm giving you the blueprint. I can't give you the entire, you know, here's how to do it. I can't get you from A to Z, but I'm telling you, like, this is the way it is. And that's one of the most impactful things that I think you've given to me in our communication and in our relationship is a no BS approach. And so for that, I greatly appreciate it. I know that whatever you're going to end up doing moving forward, that is going to not only the empathetic side of Joe, but the no nonsense sort of like, all right, this is what we got to do to get it done. And here's how we're going to do it. You know, if there was a problem, this is the best way I can say it. If there was a problem, there was also a solution or a proposed solution. Like, we're not just sitting here whining and moaning. Like, here's how we're going to get it done. And Lord help me, you had enough things going on in your life. I've never seen a human being, Joe Simonovich 10 years ago, I've never seen a human being do that many things at one place at one time than what you were charged with. So it goes to you, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The thing is that the thing that you said there that really stands out is the fact that you said, if there's a problem, there's a solution. You know, too many times, it doesn't matter which relationship it is, whether it's the relationship client agency, whether it's relationship friend to friend, you know, if there's a problem and the person wants to figure out a solution, because there's the kind of problems where you just have to listen to me whine and moan for a little bit about this problem that I have that's not going away. But, you know, when you have somebody that you can crawl into a foxhole with and say, okay, let's figure this out, and you're both given solutions. And yep. I think one of the things that I really enjoy about working with you, and it's, you know, I don't have a ton of relationships like this in my life, but I always value the ones that I do, is the person who you can sit there with and they tell you, oh, okay, we got to do this, this, and this. And you say, oh, why not this, this, and this? And not to push back and not fight, but to try to have somebody that you can meet in the middle and automatically meet in the middle and throw all the ideas out there and not, you know, I always used to have a terrible habit of, when I spit out an idea like that was what's right. You know, I'm saying it, that's what's right. And I think it made me a better leader. And honestly, I think it made me a better person when I started taking that approach away. And listen, I don't know everything. You know, somebody once told me, it was somebody I worked with for a couple of years. always used to say, you don't know what you don't know.
Nope.
And so many times it's just like, all right, saying it again, here it is again. But then it started sinking in. Like, I don't know that. You know, he moved me. He was the COO at a company I was working for, and I was always in marketing. I was very heavily in marketing with feelers out everywhere else in within the organization to try to help where I could. And he approached me one day and said, listen, we need somebody to run all of the operation. You know, we need somebody, I want to create this role of senior vice president of operations, and I want you to take the role. And my first response was, whoa, I don't know anything about purchasing. I don't know anything about equipment. I don't know these things. He's like, you don't have to. You have people there who know these things. And it was kind of that moment. Like, I still remember the conversation. And it was kind of that moment where it was like, I don't need to know everything. You know, I want to because I'm curious and that's the way my mind works, but I don't need to know everything. So I think, you know, that act of letting go was really what allowed me to be much better. And I think you could definitely relate to that as well. I know over the past couple of years, that was something that you really worked at doing.
Yeah. Once you realize, how's the best way to say this? Once you realize that you don't know everything, and once you're comfortable enough in your own skin to accept that, that's when you can become a really good leader of people. Because to your point about what your mentor said, when you can actually, you don't know what you don't know. And the fact that a lot of it, especially with dudes, especially with us dudes, when you can accept the fact that to say like, I don't have the answer. It was only, I became a better leader when I could say, I don't have the answer, but I'll get back to you. Like when you're young and doing that, you're kind of like, you'd rather throw out something that you don't maybe not feel 100% about because you feel like somebody's always judging you in that moment. But understanding as you begin to mature, I don't know if I matured any as a, yeah, like I'm a big,
it's overrated.
Yeah, 12-year-old. But like, as you begin to mature in the fact that you can be comfortable enough to accept the fact that you don't know everything, like that's when you actually start to become really good at leading, because then people respect you. They respect the fact that if you do have the answer, you know, there are still things that, you know, as I've been mentoring now, like younger kids and over the last few years, it's been awesome because a lot of these kids are like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. Or well, what do you think about this? Or like, and I'm like, just take a step back. I'm telling you this free of charge because I failed. Like I actually failed at this. And so take that advice, and the good ones, the ones that I'm seeing that are doing really well, these young people are, you know, I got a friend coming up to the office on Friday, woman who's got her own, you know, got a creative agency. She's awesome at what she does. And she just called me and, you know, it was like coming out of the summer. I don't know what's going on, this and that. And I'm like, you just got to relax. Take your time, take it one step at a time. I'm going to tell you how I did it. It might not work exactly for you, or you could choose to, you know, use or not use whatever you want. But like, take a deep breath and be okay with not knowing everything.
Yeah, I think that there's so much to be said for those soft skills, which honestly, it's something that for years I never thought of. I was, you know, always kind of I was raised very blue collar, put your head down, keep working, you're gonna get ahead. It doesn't matter, you don't complain, you just keep going, keep, you know, showing up every day, and that's what it is. And then, you know, I landed in a lot of professional environments where it was always kind of that attitude of like everybody's replaceable, that type of mindset. And it wasn't until, I mean, I remember the exact moment that it kind of clicked, and it wasn't just, you know, Chris saying you don't know what you don't know. It was, I was at a Inc. 5000 conference out in Phoenix, Arizona, and got there late, went downstairs at the hotel to just grab a drink, grab something to eat, and go to bed, because the next morning was like a full slate of speakers and all these things. And I went down to this little bar. It was like a wine cellar in the hotel. Just had a burger, had a glass of beer, and there was one more guy sitting next to me, and we just started having a conversation. He asked what I was there for. He said, "Oh, that's what I'm here for too." And I was tired, just got off the plane, didn't had a great conversation. Like, it was just a great back and forth conversation about these types of things that I never talk about. It was probably partially because I was so tired, and partially I was just, I just wanted somebody to talk to. I just got off that long cross country plane ride. Whatever. I shook hands, went to bed, and wake up the next morning, get dressed to go down to the conference. They go to the room with the keynote speakers. The first two come on stage. They were great. And then they announced the third guy, and everybody's excited for him. And it was Simon Sinek. And he got up on stage, and I'm looking at him like, that's the guy. That's the guy from last night that I just had that conversation with. And I got to, and then he gave his talk. It was right when he was just big. It was right after his first TED Talk, Circle of Trust, Finding Your Why, all of that stuff. And just kind of, he gave that. I had never heard it before. I had never heard the TED Talk before that or anything. And it was just kind of like this moment where this light went on. And later on that night at the cocktail reception, I made sure I found him, and I went up to him, and I just said to him, I was like, wow, I had no idea last night when we were talking. He's like, yeah, I didn't feel like you knew who I was, and that was kind of exciting to me. So it was just like this random meeting with somebody who, now it's just one of those authors that have really inspired me kind of on this journey, or however you want to define it. But it was this random moment where having that interaction, and then the next day having the Finding Your Why circle and golden circle and everything right there was kind of when that light went on. And those 3 days at that Inc. 5000 conference, I've been to a couple of them, but those three in particular were the ones that was definitely the time when the light kind of went on, that everything is not black and white and the way that you always thought it was. Like, there are other ways to do things, and thinking differently is okay, because that was always, as you said, you weren't comfortable as somebody younger saying something that was different. You wanted to make sure you had that right answer, and you wanted to make sure that everybody respected you for having the right answer. So it was all about respect. And then it was kind of change where it was like, okay, it doesn't have to be this hard leadership, everybody's replaceable type style. You could, if somebody's having a bad day, it's okay to sit with them and have a conversation and connect with them. And that's okay. And I think that once I felt that, it totally changed the way that I looked at business. It changed the way that I went into the office every morning. Like, it was really one of those times that completely changed my outlook on things.
Wow. That's one of those conversations that, partially you're probably like, I'm so glad I didn't know Simon Sinek. Like, you're kicking yourself because you're like, oh my God, if I had Simon Sinek for 20 minutes on my own, the things I would ask him.
Yeah, especially I tried to book him a couple years later for an event as a speaker, and he was like $100,000 an event and a 3 event minimum, and I couldn't afford him. But I had my free chance, and I blew it. I don't remember that conversation, the details of it at all. I remember everything from the next day, but the jet lag and everything like that. I remember talking to him. We talked a little bit about his book. He had a new book he was working on, which ended up being Leaders Eat Last. But it was it was just one of those things where it was totally random, totally, I had no idea who he was. I did not know him from anybody. So it was pretty cool.
That's crazy. That is nuts. These conversations, every time I do them, it's amazing, because I get it's weird when I do them. I get these emotions and they always range from like, you know, having my mentor's daughter on and my mom on, like that's like one whole aspect of my life. And to having guys like yourself and Vic and Casey, like it's just different people that I'm connecting with. And I'm just so thankful for these opportunities to talk with folks and to be able to share emotions. Like anybody that knows me, obviously, I mean, you've known me long enough now. The Sicilian in me has a penchant for kicking up at times, and I get a little crazy and emotional and the whole thing. But it's such a fantastic. I get these waves of like emotion and like hearing these things. Like I've known you for 10 years and I never knew that Simon Sinek story. Like that's crazy. And I would have asked you for it. Like I would have like literally probed you like for every detail, because somebody like that is you know, is crazy to think like that you had that opportunity. But part of the coolness for him was the fact that you didn't know who he was. And it was probably like the only time the weekend where somebody like wasn't up, you know, like up his ass about like, hey, Simon there, you know, like it's cool moments like that. But Joe, like I honestly, I want to say thank you to you. We're going to close it out here and I'm going to give you a chance to kind of talk about the things you want to talk about, but humble gratitude to you for the man you are, for the husband you are, for the dad you are, to Zoe. Like you're such an awesome dude, and you have meant a great deal to me and sort of my journey, through the conversations that we have, through connecting with guys that we don't even know, for being a voice of honesty and transparency, even if it's not the best news. It's I appreciate you very much. Don't change for anybody. If they tell you to change, tell them to go pound salt. Don't change a thing. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep building on what you're building. Keep loving the way you love. Keep just continue to bless the people around you with the things and the abilities that you have, because they are immense. And I'm so thankful to have had you on today. I'm going to turn it over to you. The floor is yours, my friend. Thank you. And before I do, thank you for also Craft Gear for coming on. We're gonna plug the heck out of it, and you know, make sure that everybody knows about it. But just keep being you, man, because it is important for the world to have more people like you and have abundance of people like you. So with heartfelt gratitude, this homage is yours, my friend. Finish it off.
No, and I'll just say thank you for everything, because this is what it's all about. And what the friend that you've been, especially over the last 18 months, you know, probably over the last 15 years, it's probably that long already, but you know, the last 18 months in the toughest times, because it really has been, you know, and it's been that way for everybody, but it's been a tough time, and I appreciate everything that you bring, from, you know, inviting me into the group with Casey and Vishal and Trent and Drew. And it's just, just all of that stuff just means so much, because I think a lot of times we just find ourselves in these places where you go back to that idea of, is it okay what I'm doing? Am I doing it the right way? And, you know, having a friend like you and someone who I can count on to always be honest with me and always be open no matter what the situation, just allows me to be grounded in being okay with who I am and how things are. So, I mean, this podcast you put together has been awesome, and going through the episodes, which I had watched them along the way, especially when it was somebody I knew, when it was like Gary Caton, or when it was, you know, Drew or Vishal. I was like, oh, I gotta watch it, gotta check it out. But, you know, over the last couple of days, as I was getting ready for this, I went through them, and it's just so great to see the love that you have for everybody, and the way that you're able to connect with all of these these people, and so many different people, and different on so many levels, and from so many different backgrounds, and all of these things, and just find this place where we can talk about what things that matter, and things that matter to, if you said this is episode number 18, hopefully it's not just things that matter to you and those 17 people that have already done it. Hopefully it's something that, it goes out there and somebody finds one little thing in it that matters. And, I respect the hell out of you and everything you do, not just from a professional standpoint, but, getting the chance to, see into your personal life a little bit and see the relationships you have with your wife and with your kids and all those things. It's just, it's awesome. And I'm proud and I'm humbled to call you a friend.
Not going to make me cry. I feel like I'm
Yes.
Jerry Maguire right now. I've been down this road. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Joe Simonovich, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Keep doing the things that you're doing. Keep helping. Keep bringing light to the world, my friend, because you're a special breed of person. And I'm thankful for your friendship. I'm thankful for you. All the best to your family. Obviously, keep posting pictures of that little girl, because she is absolutely amazing, adorable, and can't wait to see. The biggest thing that I will leave the audience with today: watch for this dude, because there is going to be stuff happening, and you will see this guy that's on the other end here, on the other side of it, making the world a better place. So, Joe, my friend, homage to you. Thank you for being on today.
Much.
Thank you for being on today. Love you, pal. And we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Darren. Take care.
See you, Joe.
Bye.